Well, first and foremost, Jessica, I'd like to thank you for coming on the show. I really appreciate it.
Of course. Yeah. Thanks for inviting me. It was a nice surprise.
Yeah. I mean, I was looking at your page. It looks like you competed and brought some pretty incredible packages. I was going to ask you before we get into the competition aspect of it, what got you into bodybuilding or working out in general? Were you always an athlete, or did something happen in your life that kind of motivated you to, go down this path?
It's funny that you asked that because I always say that a lot of bodybuilders, we fall into two categories. You're either someone that grew up an athlete and you just naturally fell into the sport, or you're maybe more like me, which is the latter. And I just, for me, I was in college, and I didn't have a lot going for me. I mean, I've never struggled with my weight per se, and I didn't have like a body image issue, but I think more for my mental, I decided to kind of throw myself into working out. And I had no idea about bodybuilding. I didn't really, I think back then, 2012, 2013, social media wasn't as prevalent and popping. So we didn't really see as much bodybuilding in the forefront, but I
Yeah.
just worked out because I enjoyed it. And then it got to a point where I was pretty into it, and a lot of people at my gym would approach me and ask me like what show I was prepping for. And I didn't have a clue what they meant. So I just kind of did my research and decided to give it a go.
Yeah, that's funny because like that happens a lot. That's happened to me where like when I was really young and just starting to working out, and people were like, "Oh, are you competing? Are you prepping for a show?" And I'm like, "I don't even know what you're talking about. Like, what does that even mean?" And so eventually you kind of claw your way through it and figure out what's going on. You said you were trying to work out for like your mental state. Was it something specific, or was it just overall you felt like it would make you feel just better, or in general?
Um, if I'm completely honest, I think I struggled a lot with like my self-esteem and confidence. I
Hmm.
think being a woman, you kind of go through that period, especially when you're entering your, early 20s. So I think I just wanted something that would, for one, give me a focus, and two, who doesn't want to look a little bit better? So
Right.
it was something that just started because I wanted to improve, yeah, like my mental health as far as that was concerned, and I had no clue, what kind of path I would go down with that.
Sure. No, I get it. So people are coming up to you. They're like, "Hey, are you prepping for a show?" You're like, "I don't know what you're talking about." And then like how did you like transition to, even thinking about competing or thinking about bodybuilding?
hmm At the time, I live in North Carolina now, but at the time I was living in Florida, and I do think that the bodybuilding scene is a lot more vast. I would encounter a lot more fit people that were engaged with the bodybuilding sport. So at my gym, there was a lot of support.
Mhm.
But what motivated me to do it, and how I kind of decided, I think I just had experience with bulking and cutting, just being like someone that really enjoyed training.
Mhm.
So I kind of was like, you know what, I have a little bit of experience, not to such an extreme degree,
Mhm.
but why not ramp it up? I think I'm confident enough to take it on. So I chose to do it and pursued it.
Yeah. Did you for your so how many shows did you do? Let me ask you that first. How many shows have you
Um,
done?
in all, I think I may have lost track. I think it's around 12 or 13 now, and I started competing in 2020.
Did you get for your first show, did you get a coach or did you try to coach yourself?
I coach myself.
And what did you think? I'm always curious about like when people coach themselves because some people go straight to a coach, other people kind of test the waters. And how was your experience stepping on stage after coaching yourself?
Well, because I didn't have a coach and because I was not very familiar with the sport, I really do look back on that time and go, wow, like I was so blind, like a lot of naivety,
Hmm.
but I don't regret it at all. Like it was such a great experience to kind of do it by myself. And yeah, I think I just kind of wanted the challenge. It was more for me personally to see like how I could push myself and what that would actually look like on stage.
And now how did you prep for your first show? Did you have like a plan in mind? Were you just working out and just eating and, just hoping you'll come in good shape?
Yeah, there was a lot of winging it, I say, but not really. I think I still was rather disciplined without a
Mhm.
coach. I was following a meal plan. I was, putting in cardio programming and all of that. And I am very meticulous and kind of dorky. So I created a spreadsheet to really track the progress. I think the one regret I have is that because there was no one that I had to answer to, I was not diligent about taking weekly check-ins, for example, which
Hmm.
is such a great thing to have just, for you to look back on. I wish I had more of those beginning progress photos just to, compare. But yeah, that was like really the only big difference for me is that there wasn't as much accountability. I had to enforce that for myself.
Yeah. That's see that progress photos thing. It's a lot of people don't really realize how important it is. I just had a client send me. I always push. Sometimes, a lot of times he remembers, but I push them to really make sure that he sends me those regularly. And I mean, the improvement that he made is incredible. And so what I did was I put his first one up and that one, the last one, and he's like, "Wow, I didn't even realize how like much progress I got." And that's why you need progress pictures because, if you don't, it's hard because you're constantly seeing yourself. You don't really, it's hard to gauge where you are, in the progression. So for
Yeah,
sure.
absolutely. That's why I said like I felt like I was sort of winging it because there wasn't that very strict comparison week to week, month to month, and now, I can say year to year.
Yeah.
But it's something I've definitely improved on, and since I've been really good about taking weekly pictures.
Yeah. So I'm assuming are you with a coach now? Or are you still doing it yourself?
So at this time, I have a coach at this moment, and I've really appreciated the, ability to work with someone. That was a whole different process for me because after several years of doing it alone, to then trust in
Hmm.
somebody to kind of do my programming and peak me for a show, I was apprehensive. But yeah, at this time, I do have a coach. He is wonderful. Um,
Nice.
I am kind of on like my off season right now, and I've
Hmm.
taken a step back to a degree just because I felt like I really needed it. But as of lately, I've felt very invigorated. I'm strong in the gym, and I think I am ready to push for like a really good year of growth.
So when you train, are you more of a volume like trainer or do you like to lift heavy?
I'm more of a volume girly.
Hmm.
I mean, I will push myself sometimes. Like some days, I decide to maybe go for a more like a lift heavy, but I do enjoy the volume sets for sure.
Sure.
It's part of my experience.
Sure. I mean, I think volume is extremely important. I think obviously you need, tension, you need some heavy weight, but volume is extremely important. I mean, you can't deny that. And I think a good combination of both is what really brings out the best in people.
Yeah,
I'm not in this one camp versus the other thing. I think you utilize all the tools you have. You have to,
absolutely.
you know. You said that you're taking a step back. I was curious, is there like a particular reason that you're doing this or?
So I have, since starting in 2020, I've competed every single year since. I turned pro in 2021, and that kind of lit this fire to really go at it in the pro league.
Mhm.
And I've enjoyed 3 seasons of that now, if I'm correct.
Mhm.
Yep, I think 3 seasons. And they've been wonderful. But I just realized after my last season in 2024, I didn't walk away with bad feelings about it. I just realized and recognized a lot of burnout personally. And then living in Asheville, North Carolina, we were actually hit by a pretty bad hurricane.
Yeah.
And that
Hmm.
was life changing to say the least. We really were kind of living in an apocalyptic time where there was limited resources for, I mean, weeks up to months. So that actually made me really kind of check myself and where I was at and what my goals were. I know I love working out. I know I love going on stage, but I also recognize like after 4 years of nonstop, prep and
Competing.
bulk, and I just needed some space to not really have a show date in mind and just kind of fall back in love with the process of working out.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah. So is your do you foresee yourself going back to stage or you think you're done?
Yeah, no, I definitely think I'll be back because I just get such a itch for it. I
Hmm.
love competing. I love the entire process of, traveling and getting backstage. And I already miss it. So I know that's how I'm not done. And I'm 30. So I think some of my best prime years are ahead. I just know that taking some time off and really building some, quality muscle is going to make all the world of difference, especially now that it's getting more mature.
Yeah.
So that's sort of what excites me, but it's kind of refreshing not to have a show date in my mind for this year. Who knows? But it'll probably be 2026.
Right. I mean, it is a weight, having that show day, even though it can be interesting and fun and something to drive for and goals, all these positive things, it is still a weight on your shoulders and you still have a life to live besides bodybuilding. So, I could definitely see how not having that can kind of free you up a little bit and, not burden you down so much. So,
Yeah, it gives me other things to be excited about. I'm more than just a bodybuilder. I like to say, at one point in my life, it was very much all my identity.
hmm
But now I really feel like I am more multifaceted, and I'd be able to like put my focus into other things that bring me joy. But you can still enjoy, working out very regularly, keeping track of your progress with progress photos, and then yeah, getting probably the itch bad enough that I'm gonna end up prepping for a show next year.
At one point, you're just going to be like, all right, that's it. I'm just going to pick a show.
I know I already see it coming.
Have, well, I guess let me ask you this way. What kind of feedback have you gotten over the last, I guess, few shows? Like at this point, if you're working out, so technically, I guess we could say this is going to be like an extended off season. So,
Mhm.
so like, what are you working on at this point?
Um, I would say overall just growth. I think we always want to just grow in general. Of course, being a bikini girl, there's going to be the glute focus. I feel like I do have a pretty well built upper body for bikini, so that's just sort of more of a maintenance thing for me at this point. But yeah, the glutes, especially the upper glutes, I usually get that as my feedback. I also do really kind of veer on the more conditioned side of bikini. I personally love that look, and that's sort of the look I always went for when I was self-coached. And my coach now, he coaches a lot of other divisions that get peeled. So we do sort of push for the harder look, and we've been given the feedback, we want you to be a little softer. We don't really want to see, all of your lines in your legs when you walk. So it's something to play with, but of course, like I love getting lean and mean. That is like the thing that makes me so excited. So that's something I have to balance against, but that's going to be something we have to focus on once there's a show in mind. Right now
Yeah,
it's just the
yeah.
growth.
Yeah, it's so I was looking at some of your pictures and like you have some arms on you and some shoulders. Like you definitely have like a serious upper body.
Yeah.
And I do like just like you in almost every division. I like that kind of leaner where you can kind of see all the lines and all that. I think it's a good look, but I guess that's not what they're looking for now. Which, although
Mhm.
bikini is an interesting division because um, there's so many good competitors, and
Right.
sometimes you don't know what they're going to be looking for that particular year because it's the mo like I think Ashley Kaltwasser won the most, which was three Olympias, and
Mhm.
so that's kind of like tells you a little bit that they're willing to go for a different look every so often. Like, what do you think as far as the division now is concerned? You think they're going the right direction, the wrong direction? You know, what do you think the future for bikini kind of holds?
I'm pretty happy with the way it sits right now. Of course, my feedback is that I come in a little too hard, but I can't disagree with them for what
hmm
they're looking for. I do like the sort of look that a lot of the girls that get first are, presenting.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, you're so correct though. I was just thinking as you were talking, like when I turned pro in 2021, I was the leanest I've ever been. I was absolutely shredded and by the most conditioned on in my division at the time,
hmm
and that won. But then, my feedback since has been becoming softer. So I do think you're correct. It depends on like who's up on the stage and what that all looks like. If you just have the overall like best shape, I think they're going to be okay with a harder look. It just depends on the quality. And since I've been in the pro league, I mean, they're all coming out phenomenal.
Yeah.
There's no one that's coming out incorrect. So that's why I do have to kind of consider more if I want to place well in this division. I might have to sacrifice some of my personal, wants to get super like grainy.
Yeah, that's true. What do you think about? I know, you've been keeping a leaner look because you're in bikini. Have you
Mhm.
ever thought about pushing to go to like something like wellness? Because they do have like girl, wellness kind of ranges. So there's girls that are a little bit more muscular there, but there are a lot of girls that are doing well that are, they're bigger than bikini girls, obviously, but not to the point where somebody like you couldn't reach that look. Have you ever thought about that, or you think you're just going to stay with bikini?
I do think at this point I'm going to stay with bikini. Once upon a time, I actually considered just taking some time off
Hmm.
for a while and actually coming back in figure.
Oh
I would
yeah.
say figure is my favorite division to watch for women. I just think it's such a beautiful division. I love their poses. I love their
Hmm.
shape. My back grows so quickly. I don't actually train my back very regularly just because it really blows up. So I know that if I wanted to, in the pro league, it's very competitive, but I love that division. So if I were to grow out of bikini, it would probably be something like that. But I think now,
Yeah.
like I said, at 30, I'm more okay with bikini. And I do know
Hmm.
I have a lot to grow in this division as it is. So
Yeah.
happy to be comfortable in it and keep on working.
Yeah, you kind of do have to think about that. Not by any means you're not, in the older ranges at all. You're, in your prime for sure. But there is a certain point where you're like, well, do I even want to push the envelope like that? And so, for sure, I get that. I love figure. I wasn't even thinking about that, but I hate the fact that the Arnold doesn't have figure anymore. I don't know if you keep up with it, but they
Mhm.
took it away a couple years ago, and I was like, oh man, that's like such a great division.
Yeah,
But they have their own reasons for their decisions.
right.
There's a girl, I don't know if you're aware of her, Erica Morgan, I believe, and she's amazing in figure. But she also has that really, really hard, kind of gnarly look, and I think it looks great, on her. So that definitely would be one that, I would love to see you in, but I totally understand the reason that you might want to stay in bikini. So, so at this point, I guess so you're going to compete, you think like in 2026,
Yeah.
that was the thought process behind it.
Mhm. Yeah. I think my first year in the pro league, I just sort of did shows that were more local to me just for the ease and, the
Hmm.
getting in there. But then after the first year, I decided like, if I'm going to compete, I want to compete against the best. And so in 2023 and 24, I did rather competitive shows against, people that were already qualified for the Olympia or had placed very
Hmm.
well at the Olympia. And I was excited because I really wanted to see how I compared.
Right.
My first year in the pro league, my best placing was second. And that was pretty insane. But I also was like, okay, if that's the standard at this show, let me take it to the Tampa Pro. Let me take it to Texas. Let's see
Yeah.
what it's really about. And then, I started to place more in the ninth, 10th place range. And that's how I knew, okay, this is the caliber now. You want to make it to the Olympia. These are the girls that you'd be against. It's time to like really focus, which is why this growth is very much necessary and exciting.
Yeah, 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 yeah. No, no, I totally get that. What do you think about it's kind of like a little bit of a tangent, but still kind of in line with the divisions. As far as like the new fitness model division, have you heard of it? Like
Yeah.
do you think that we're in a place as an industry to keep adding divisions? There's two sides, to this argument, of course, but have you thought about that?
Yeah, I've had a lot of thoughts. I think many of us have. I'm honestly very torn. I see the arguments for and against it, and I can understand both. Where I maybe am a little bit puzzled, if I'm completely honest, is that they're making them into pro bodybuilding athletes. I can understand adding the division to the NPC, just for girls that want to kind of ease into the sport. But to be considered a pro bodybuilder, again, I kind of veer into that. I like that like super hard, super grainy, I just love a good muscular build.
Right.
Um, so I'm a little bit impartial, but if it's going to encourage more people to see our sport and to get involved, by all means, like I can support the women that choose to do that.
Sure. To your point, initially when they came out, I think they were saying that it was just going to be like an NPC type of division, but then they decided to make pros out of them. And I did not understand that because the idea of this division is supposed to be a softer, kind of easily attainable look. Somebody who can come in, have a good structure, not have a ton of muscle, and just look good and, compete. How do you improve on that? If you improve on that, then you're going to fall into bikini,
Right.
So like how do you go from NPC to pro to the Olympia stage at some point? Where is the improvement going to come from? I don't understand. Maybe I'm missing something. Maybe they're going to show us, when they start actually going through this whole process, but I'm just curious to know what's the difference between someone who wins a pro card versus someone who wins the Olympia in their look,
Correct.
you know?
Yeah, I think we're on the same page with that. That's sort of where I've said I'm going to wait and see and watch. Wellness
Mhm.
was a newer division at one point in
Sure.
the time I've been in the sport, and it's blown up. But as you said, I'm curious as to how they're going to gauge, yeah, an
Yeah.
Olympian level fit bikini versus an NPC if, so we'll
Sure.
see, I guess.
Yeah, I guess so. I guess that's our only option, right? Like
Yeah.
wait and see. Yeah, yeah. I was just it took me by surprise when they announced them to be pros. But I mean, they like you said, they've done well, in wellness. So we'll see what happens with that. So you said you do some coaching as well and some posing coaching and stuff
Mhm.
like that. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I'm a big so I grew up dancing when I was younger, and I think a lot of girls that end up bodybuilding maybe once were dancers. And that's why I love posing. So I am huge on trying to help people with their posing routines. I do a lot of in-person or remote posing
Hmm.
sessions, and I think people underestimate the power of a good routine, especially in bikini and especially when you're wearing heels. If you master that and feel confident in your craft, like it's what's going to set you apart, I say, especially in the pro league where everyone, as I said before, is coming out looking phenomenal as it is. And I don't do so much of the bodybuilding like coaching anymore. I do actually coach my best friend, which is a very interesting experience because we work together, we live together, and I coach her. So it's like all encompassing. But I really enjoyed that process as a coach just because I come from the self coach background where I knew my body very well. But to then master and help others with their own goals in the sport, it's been really rewarding in and of itself.
Sure. Is that if you don't mind me asking, is that the girl that's on like it? And I'll put all the pictures that we're talking about up when this episode drops, so the audience will actually see it. But is this the girl, the third picture on the right when you're looking at your page? I mean,
Correct.
she's got a solid physique too. I almost feel like you kind of duplicated yourself a little bit, and it's you guys look so much alike, especially with the same with the same like posing outfit and hair color
Mhm.
and everything like that. So you
Yep.
obviously know what you're doing. I think it's time for you to take on more clients.
Yeah, definitely. I love everything bodybuilding, right? So I just love engaging with people, helping them. I should probably get into the coaching a bit more now because I have the freedom and the time.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, I've just enjoyed being like a coach for and traveling and getting to watch from the audience rather than be backstage.
Yeah, yeah, no, I get that. As far as posing, man, posing has really exploded. When I first got into bodybuilding, posing was not like the focus of most people, but now you have like yourself have posing coaches specifically only for that. And I think you're right. I think it makes a huge difference because when I watch these shows, like I'm driving to the Arnold tomorrow. When I watch these shows and I see people, it's like they're all look great because they're all professionals, but the posing makes sets you apart. Like you said, if everything is equal, posing is gonna make the difference. And I think some
Exactly.
people overlook that, either they don't practice it or they don't hire somebody like you to coach them. Or to, yeah, coach their posing is what I meant. And, you can see it on stage.
Yeah, absolutely. And just with my dance background again, I there's nothing better than watching someone that has such finesse. It is beautiful. Like it
Mhm.
makes me so excited. So I don't see why people wouldn't want to put the effort into it. Even in your off season, it's always important to still like drill it and focus on it and stay comfortable in the heels if you're a girl for sure.
Mm. Is there someone, and I know I'm kind of putting you on the spot, and when I ask this, you might forget everybody's name, but is there someone that you think is like a really good poser that you can just kind of say off the top of your head right now in the division?
Ooh, who do I think's great? I mean, I'll tell you, I mean, this is just a no-brainer. Laura Lee's like
Hmm.
posing style, it's very like different than others and she just does it with such grace. I've
Hmm.
always found myself really looking at her like wow, that is a great example of what bikini posing can look like. It is more flowy. It's almost like I said, a dance.
Yeah.
And I really enjoy someone that can really milk their time and have such confidence, and you can tell they're very grounded
Hmm.
in your heels, especially to just be able to stay grounded and look very confident all the while you're probably not 100%
Yeah.
confident in front of hundreds of people. But yeah, just her finesse is art like amazing, and I definitely aspire to look more like her if I can.
Yeah, I think when you said flow, like she kind of flows, that's what I was thinking. You took the words out of my mouth. Like she has that kind of flowy, like posing style. Yeah,
Mhm.
it is interesting. And you're right, in front of so many people, it's like you have to manage your anxiety. Did you I know we're kind of going back into your career, but when you started stepping on stage, since it was so new, did you have a lot of anxiety being in front of all those people?
Yeah, and I'll admit, like even now, I've been on stage more than 10 times and I will be so confident, so ready. But it's not so much my mental. I just recognize that sometimes my actual body, like physically, I can feel my heart rate increase. And you're one person up, like you're about to walk out there, and I can't really even hear anything other than like my breathing. And I
Right.
want to improve that. And I think that's just going to come with more and more experience. I know that there's some women I'm competing against that have stepped on stage triple the amount of times I have. And so that I give myself grace. But looking back at my first initial years in the sport, yeah, I think I almost like blacked out, you know. But then you kind of walk off and you're like, all right, I survived it. And usually the pictures look good. So
Yeah.
you just kind of have to fake it till you make it when you first get into it. That's what I always tell people. Like you
Yeah.
just have to exude confidence,
It,
even if
it,
you don't have it.
you get like a cold sweat, your hair, you start shaking a little bit, you kind of start
Yeah.
like getting lightheaded. That's usually like those
Mhm.
signs of anxiety. And you're on heels trying to, pose and show off your physique.
Yeah.
What a difficult task to do, but it's pretty amazing though, when you think about it. And it's interesting because like things like heart rate and all that, like a lot of that is managed by doing physical things, right? Like if your heart rate is up, usually they tell you, well, breathe, like take 3 deep breaths and things like that. You can't really do that on stage. You're like in the middle of your routine, so you have to find other ways to manage that anxiety. But I think you're right. I think the experience is really what makes the difference.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, yeah, interesting. Are you going to be at any like big shows as an audience member? I know you're not competing. Are you going to any shows?
I'm actually going to take a peek at not a pro show, but I'm actually going to go watch one of those NPC natural shows. I
Mm,
haven't yet seen one, and my friend is actually natural and plans to compete in one later this year. And so for that reason, I think it would be interesting to watch,
hmm.
and just sort of see what the caliber looks like out here because it's a Carolina show. So that's actually the next one in my like to-do list, but
Yeah.
I always love going to the Texas Pro. I loved competing in it, and I went and watched in the audience last year. And it's such a spectacular production that if I can count on it, I'll probably be flying out to that too.
That'd be cool.
Later.
I've never been to a natural show. It's like I'm always curious on how that is because some of those people that are at natural look really good.
Oh yeah.
Some of them really surprised me. I was gonna get into this topic and speak as much as you want to about it. But what do you think about the PED use in the industry as a whole? Do you think it's kind of overdone? Do you think I guess just what are your thoughts on it, if any?
Yeah, have a lot of peers in the sport, so I've kind of seen a range of use. I would say that to have a coach that has really great knowledge and is going to keep your health in mind, it makes the world of a difference. I've definitely seen some people push it and do too much, and it has those like effects that none of us are really wanting or counting on. But I think that there's no problem, with use as long as you're guided and you're also aware of the risks, just to be informed and knowledgeable. And yeah, and just not overdo it. I think less is more sometimes, and that's me specifically talking about females in bikini.
Hmm.
I think that I've seen some friends of mine kind of have a lot of drugs pushed on them by not so great coaches, and if I could have my own personal opinion on it, they probably didn't need to do nearly as much to kind of get the results that they were looking for. So it's just sort of a matter of making sure you know what you're doing and having someone that you can trust in to really guide you through that process.
Yeah, there's some really like slimy people out there that will use these girls to make a name when they, push them to the limit, get that quote unquote physique, and then use them as like, oh, well, look at this girl that I've built. But they don't care anything about the consequences that this girl's going to have. And especially for women, I mean, it's a big deal for men too, because there's health ramifications. But for women, it's you can lose your femininity, and that's something that you can't get back. So, um, I also think bikini is one of those divisions where people are very um, confused. They think that that's not the case with bikini competitors, but from everything that I've heard from who I've spoken, it very much is. And you really have to have a good head on your shoulders to make sure that you don't allow yourself to be used like that.
Yeah, I agree. And I also think for anyone listening that may be newer in the sport, still in the NPC and dipping their toes if you're a female in bikini, I generally tell them to really just push as much as they can naturally first. I turned pro natural, and I got very lean and I still had quality muscle on there. It was just years and years of training and building to really give that. All that I had before considering anything else. I think that that's the main thing. Just don't jump into taking drugs because it's what bodybuilders do. Understand why you're taking them and understand the risks, and also understand that it can be done in a responsible way if you have someone that you can trust and guide you like a good coach.
Sure, sure. I think those are important words because we live in a social media world where things are popularized. We went from no one talking about it to now everyone is talking about it and making it like almost like a taking drugs like you're drinking a cup of water. It's like nothing. And people need to understand it's a serious step. It's not necessarily that you can't take them, but it's just you need to fully understand the choice that you're making. So
Yeah, I
for
agree.
sure, for sure. Well, thank you so much, Jessica, for coming on the show. I really appreciate it. I know it's late where you are. If somebody wanted to do more podcasts with you, if somebody wanted to hire you from opposing and whatnot, what's the best way for them to reach you?
Yeah, I'm on Instagram like everyone else. It's the main way of finding me. So my Instagram handle is Jess underscore IFBB Pro. And I'm always kind of posting my progress and as well as anyone that I'm helping. And if I'm doing anything in the future sooner than I have told you tonight, then I will be posting about that too, because I love sharing my prep, whole experience. It's part of the fun.
Awesome. And guys, I'm going to link everything at the bottom to make it easier for you to reach out to Jessica. And again, thank you so much for your time. Really
Oh,
appreciate it.
thank you.
All right, you take care. Have a good night.
Bye.